Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a new week of PR fun. This week I'm going to be sharing with you some lessons, 7 key lessons from my 20 years in PR. More than 20 years in the PR and media industry actually. I started as a journalist when I was 22. I'm 45 now and basically have done a lot of PR work in the last 20 years or so. So it's Monday morning, I have been up early, I have been my jog, I did some work, a couple of hours of work, wrote a press release for a client, sent some emails, did some social media, sent some messages about things that are happening this week. Then I came through to just near Stirling, met a friend and former colleague for some brunch there, which we've just finished, and it was a lovely catch up. So yeah, brunch is the one. Honestly, if you could offer me brunch, lunch or dinner out, I would choose brunch every single time. So yeah, it's been a good morning. I'm going back, I've got a call this afternoon and I've got some work to be getting on with. So I'm going to head home now and I shall come back to you and share the 7 key lessons that I have learned about PR in the last 20 years so that you don't have to learn them for yourself. You don't have to make all those mistakes in the PR activities that you might be doing, and there'll be some super helpful tips and advice that you can follow in your own PR outreach. Okay, so let's just dive right into the meat of this video, which is 7 lessons that I have learned from 20 years in PR and media. Now, PR and media, you have to understand this first, is all about trust. Everything I do for my clients is to build their reputation, is to build their credibility. That is the whole point behind doing PR activities, so that you become trusted, you become that credible place to go for information on whatever your subject area is. So with that in mind, the number one lesson, an absolute golden rule, in fact, of PR is never, ever lie. Just never tell a lie. And basically, PR is about positioning. Yes, you can position things in a way that are helpful to your cause, helpful to your reputation, but there always has to be some truth in what you're saying. Never tell the media or your public in general an outright lie. And the reason for that is, as many people have found out over the years, is that when you do, there's a reasonable chance after some time that you will be found out. And when that happens, your reputation takes such a hit that it is really difficult, almost impossible to come back from. And a great example of this is Michelle Mone, who basically, she and her husband were involved in a company that sold PPE supplies to the UK government back in during COVID. And what happened was the media found out that there was a link to her. She completely denied that there was or that she had had anything to do with it. And basically it was discovered that, that just was not true. And she went on television and admitted in an interview that they had not told the truth, that they had lied. And basically, the level of trust that the public has in her now is zero. So she has gone from being someone who had a very high standing in Scotland in particular to someone who now has a very low reputation and would not be trusted by many business people or people in the public, because she basically had to admit that she had lied. And that is why, just one of the many sort of examples of why the golden rule and lesson number 1 is never tell a lie. Okay, lesson number 2 is say what you want to say. That is a really, really important lesson. Whenever you're doing PR activities, whether that might be speaking to the media, getting interviewed on a podcast, you need to know what you want to say. What do you want to use that opportunity for? Don't be reactive. Don't just respond to what they want to ask you and not have thought about what you want to say in advance, because that means that you're not going to be able to take advantage of that opportunity to the maximum. You need to know what you want to say. You need to know what your sort of 2 or 3 like non-negotiable messages are, and whatever happens, whatever you're asked, you weave in these non-negotiable messages and make sure that you use that opportunity for something that is helpful to your cause. Really, really important. Say what you want to say. Okay, lesson number 3 is understand that everything that appears in the media is there for a reason. It's there because of something. It's there because someone has placed it there for whatever reason they want to. Stories that appear in the media are placed there by someone. They don't just happen. Either the journalist has a reason for wanting to write that story, or the contributor or the person that the story is about or the company that the story is about has a reason for wanting to share that information. So just know, like, what does that mean for you? Well, it means that if they can do it, so can you. If they can get stories and articles in the media, then so can you. Because it's not some secret world that only certain people are allowed into. That's what I'm trying to get across in this lesson. It's anyone can get involved and place stories there. You have to just figure out what you want to say. Know that it needs to be attention grabbing. Know that it needs to be something that generates discussion, that generates debate, because that's what the media are looking for. But get out there and pitch your article, pitch your story, because other people are doing it, and that's why their articles are appearing in there. Okay, so remember, everything is in the media for a reason, and if you have a reason to want something to be included in the media, then get out there and do it as well. Right. The 4th lesson in my 20 years of PR is don't try too hard. And by that, I'm really thinking about PR stunts. I'm not a big fan of PR stunts. For all the PR stunts that people come up with and try every single week around the world, only a tiny percentage of them work. And by that, I mean only a tiny percentage of them get the results, the attention that they're looking for. And even those that do, I often find with PR stunts that they are very short-lived. Like, they might get you some attention in the short term, but they wouldn't necessarily lead to long-term sort of goals, if you know what I mean. They wouldn't support your goals over time. It's literally just like a flash in the pan PR stunt. It might get your name out there for a bit, but the reality is it wouldn't necessarily move you that much closer to your goals, because a lot of the time the subject matter that you're coming up with PR stunt type ideas is not necessarily relating to sort of the long-term outcome of your business. Is more like what can get us attention right now. So in my opinion, very few PR stunts work. I just think don't try too hard with PR, because most of the PR successes that happen organically. And number 5 is reactive opportunities in PR can be a great way to get exposure, and I've had this with quite a few of my clients. So when people think about PR, they most likely think about pitching out, being proactive, pitching stories, writing press releases, that sort of thing. And of course, most of our time is spent doing that. But there's a reactive side to PR as well, where every day around the world, there's journalists who are looking for contributors to stories. They're posting requests on various different platforms, including social media, including X. The best place to start, in fact, for that is X. Go look at the hashtag journal requests, go to the latest feed, and you'll see every 5 to 10 minutes there's journalists popping up saying, I'm looking to speak to someone who knows about this, someone who's an expert in that, someone who has experienced this. And so if you can just keep monitoring these kinds of platforms, then you can have great success. I've had clients in The Independent, I've had clients in Women's Health, I've had clients even on various podcasts, I've had clients giving comments to different magazines, different, like HR publications and that sort of thing, quite niche, but it's because when they're looking for contributors, I am on the platforms, I'm checking who's looking for what, I'm thinking about where there's a good fit for my clients, and I'm pitching straight away. And that's the thing with these, you have to get in quite early. So don't just think of PR as proactive outreach. Remember, there's reactive opportunities there too. And if you just happen to be a great fit for one of these articles and you get in a timely manner and they pick you to comment, then it can be really, really good for your credibility and your career to show that you've been commenting as an expert in XYZ publications. So, lesson number 6 is timing is everything. And you would not believe how true that is for PR, honestly. It all comes down to, do you or the thing that you're pitching collide with the thing that the person on the receiving end is looking for in that moment? So whether that's a journalist, whether that's a podcast host, an event organizer, do you and what you're offering meet what they are looking for in that moment? And if the answer's no, then it's not going to happen. And what happens is a lot of people give up at that point, but the timing just wasn't right. You just weren't that right fit in that moment. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't be further down the line. And I have got countless examples of times where I've pitched clients to podcasts, I've been ignored, I've gone back a couple of months later and they've said yes, or they've come back to me voluntarily like 6, 7, 8 months later and said, I'm so sorry for the delay. It wasn't right back then, but I'd love to have such and such on the podcast now. Same with media. Honestly, I've pitched the same story to the same newspaper through different people, and it's taken 3 times to get a yes. So the first 2 were a no through 2 different avenues, exactly the same story, and the third one was a yes. It's just down to the timing of what you're pitching and whether it meets what they are looking for. So remembering that is honestly a light bulb moment, because it's not that there's anything wrong with what you're sharing, it's not quite the right fit. So you keep trying until you hit that little sweet spot where it just is exactly what they're looking for. And finally, lesson number 7, a PR crisis does not mean the end of your business. So many times I've seen things go wrong for businesses. I've seen individuals get themselves into really difficult sort of crisis scenarios where they've done or said something that really does not reflect well on them, where a business has not dealt with something well, and they always invariably manage to come back to some degree and continue their business, and probably in most cases grow from there. Because when it comes to PR crisis, it's all about how you handle it. People forgive mistakes, they know that accidents happen and things go wrong. So often the thing that will cause more of a PR crisis for a business is not handling it well, rather than the actual thing that went wrong in the first place. So that's why it's so important to have a crisis communications plan, and to know that if these different scenarios come up that could come up for your business, how you're going to handle them, who's in charge of what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, etc., so that actually you can weather that storm and bounce back a lot quicker. So PR crises are not the end of the world. Most businesses come back, they carry on growing from there, but you have to be prepared for anything that could go wrong in your business so that you can just manage your reputation and come out of it with minimal reputational damage because you've handled it well. So then it was Thursday and I was off on a little trip to Edinburgh on the train for an event that I had put in the diary a few months ago. The train journey was good, except for the girl who was sharing all her personal details. Why do people do that, honestly? Then I got to Edinburgh station and I had to quickly get some work done. As always, had the laptop with me, had to get some bits done, and then I was on my way. I walked up to this event that I was going to. So it was all about podcasting in Scotland and how we can grow the industry. And honestly, seeing Edinburgh again for the first time in ages was just stunning. It was freezing, but it was beautiful. This building that the event was held in was part of Edinburgh University, I think, and it was gorgeous, but very, very difficult to find your way around. Anyway, the event was well attended, some interesting conversations. I was glad I went. I couldn't stay for the whole thing, but I enjoyed going. Good morning, Friday morning, out for an early walk. Last one of the week, and yes, enjoyed my trip to Edinburgh yesterday. Lovely to see it, absolutely loved it. And yeah, it's been a busy week, enjoyable, lots of different things going on. Client interviewed for a huge magazine, another client accepted for an article for a global women's magazine, clients recording podcasts, clients away on VIP ski trips. It has been a good week. Also got some great coverage for one of my clients about some changes they're making to their coach services. Got picked up in pretty much every media publication that it could have been picked up in, it's funny because sometimes you think something is a nice little positive news piece, but you don't necessarily think it's going to be picked up far and wide. You know, it's not like a groundbreaking story, and then for some reason people just latch onto it. I even had a journalist contact me who said they wanted a copy of the press release that they hadn't been on the initial list. So there you go. Sometimes you just get a nice little surprise from some of these things. And what else? Another nice bit of PR for a podcast studio that I work with, who they do tons of podcasts for tons of different clients. So this was one that was nice and newsworthy because it's about the well-being of young people. So today I've got some stuff to finish off. I've got an article to write. I've got some pitching to do for a client, and then I'm driving back to my mum and dad's, and we are going out for a little family meal, all of us together for the first time in a while. So that'll be nice. Looking forward to that. And then family weekend. So all good. I think that pretty much wraps up this week, to be honest. I don't think there's much more news from my end. Hopefully you found the 7 lessons helpful. It's literally just about getting started. I've learned the hard way for most of these lessons. I've got things wrong. I have made plenty of mistakes along the way, not realising they were mistakes at the time, obviously, but just learning from them. And if you make it a point to learn from the things that work and the things that don't work, then you move forward a heck of a lot faster, that's for sure. So let's all take that into next week. But thank you for watching, and I shall see you again next week.